Hi guys, it's Jennifer, and I am here to talk about Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Me and Amanda love to do ARC reviews for fiction addictions, and ARC stands for Advanced Reading Copy. Publishers like to put out advanced reading copies on future books so that people can read them and let you guys know what we feel about them and help you to put them on your TBR or not once they come out. First, I want to thank Penguin Random House for giving me access to this. I was very excited to read this. I'm a huge Taylor Jenkins Reid fan. You just have to say her name and I don't even need to know what it's about, and I am definitely going to read it. She's just one of those authors for me. I have read many of Taylor Jenkins Reid's novels. There's only, I think, one I have not read yet. And that one I think is the Carrie Soto one, which I do own and it's behind me. I just haven't gotten to it yet. I think my favorite one by her is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. That one went viral years ago, and I definitely, once I heard about it, I thought, oh, I got to try this. And that book was just very emotional and such a great story. Her storytelling is definitely a talent for her. I love her writing, and it stuck with me. It's one of those books that I feel like is just going to stick with you. This one I felt had a lot of similar elements, and I'm just going to put this on the screen so that I don't have to keep holding it up. And when you read the description for this, some of the things that I wanted to talk about, I can't necessarily talk about because it might ruin the book. It's not in the description, so I definitely don't feel like ruining the book for anyone. The plot for this one is about Joan Goodwin. It's the early 1980s, and it's a setting that is not familiar in the rest of her books. It's a little outside of the element. If you have read Taylor Jenkins Reid books, hers tend to surround like the Los Angeles, California, Hollywood almost sort of setting. And this one takes place in the astronaut program at Houston in the early 1980s. So it's definitely a jump away from what she normally writes about. What is similar in this book is that the characters are still those that you want to root for and really hope that they get through all of the challenges that they're faced with. And I really ended up loving these characters a lot. So Joan has a sister and they're really close. And Joan especially is close with her niece, Frances. And her whole world basically is being a great aunt, and she does have a complicated relationship with her sister. One of the things she's dreamed about doing and has such a passion for is she wants to be in space. She's obsessed with knowing the stars and wanting to be able to be an astronaut for NASA. And I think at the time in the early 1980s, I know we had the moon landing in the late 60s. I don't know enough about like NASA and the space program for the 70s, but I do know there was a resurgence in the 80s. And there was a lot of interest in the astronaut program. There are some movies about that I remember coming out in the 1980s. The reason why Taylor Jenkins Reid, she had a note at the beginning of this book that she became obsessed herself with the sky and the stars, and she decided that it needed to be in her next book. Other than Joan, you get to know the group of astronauts that Joan ends up being paired with as they're picked to work together for a future mission in space. Some of the characters that you learn about are Griff, Lydia, Hank, Donna, Vanessa. You get to know a little bit about all of these characters, but there's one in particular that she ends up becoming very close with, and you start to see how she builds a really meaningful relationship with this person. And in the description, the way Taylor Jenkins Reid talks about what happens in this book, she has the phrase transformative power of love. Now, part of that is definitely how she feels about her niece and her sister, and the viewpoint she has after being in space and how it makes her feel about everything in her life, the relationship she has in her life, but there's also the relationship she ends up building when she's with this group of astronauts. And since it's not mentioned in the description, I feel it's something that you guys would want to learn about as you're reading, because at first, as I'm reading this book, I didn't really know who she was going to end up being close to. And you see how she builds friendships with everybody that she's on this crew with. But then she starts to realize that she has a lot of feelings for someone in particular. And that's where the true love story of this book ends up going. And in her book, she kind of jumps around all over the place with the timeline. And you keep seeing what's happening in 1984, and a particular gripping situation happens. And then you keep jumping backwards in timeline to see how we got there. So if jumping timeline isn't something that you love, just as a warning, that happens in this book. Once you fully see what happens during that very tense moment, it is hugely emotional. I felt myself tearing up at what was happening. And at the conclusion, I feel like for me, I don't know if it just speaks to how good the book was written, I did want more. I feel like you end up wanting more from this story. And sometimes that can be a bad thing too. And I don't know if she meant for the reader to feel that at the very end, but I feel it was kind of stopped too soon, in my opinion. I really wanted more from the story and what happened with the characters. I wouldn't say it ends on like a cliffhanger or anything like that. You do get resolution, at least for parts of it. But there are things that I wanted to see beyond what happened at the end of this book. And I hope that's not considered a spoiler, but that's just how I felt at the end of this book. If you read Taylor Jenkins Reid and you're a fan, you're definitely going to love this book, in my opinion, because even though I wanted more at the end, I still loved this book so much. It was a 4-star book for me. I would even say it was 4.5 star. I think the only reason why I wasn't giving it a 5-star was because I wanted more at the end. If you haven't read Taylor Jenkins Reid yet, this would also be a good entry into her world, though a lot of her other books are tied together with characters. And this one, as far as I know, I did not notice any characters from her other books. Now, I don't always have the best memory, but I definitely didn't recognize anyone from any other book. Some of her other books, they will mention things that either restaurants or there's a magazine where a couple of the characters had worked at, and there are connections in the other one, like Carrie Soto, the one book I hadn't read yet. She is mentioned in a couple of the books, like Malibu Rising. This one, as far as I can tell, is a standalone, so it might also be a good entry for you to start reading Taylor Jenkins Reid with this one. If I had to recommend any of her books, I still would go with Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, but for me, this is a very close second with her books. I felt like it was just such an emotional story, and I absolutely loved it. Atmosphere comes out Tuesday, June 3rd. Definitely put it on your TBRs for June. I highly recommend this book. Thank you for watching all my thoughts on Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and until next time.